Tappei has just released Arc 8 Chapter 12, and this video will be a summary of the chapter. The chapter begins with Subaru reaching his fist out, and he had the most regret now that he had ever had since turning small. During Sparker and during the many talks with Cecilus, Subaru never really regretted being smaller. However, punching Vincent in the face was the first time he truly regretted being a child. Subaru punched Vincent and then landed on the floor. Vincent wasn't really angry. If anything, he was more surprised as he looked at Subaru, who was on the floor. Vincent put his hand to his cheek where he was hit and states if Subaru tries to kill him, then he will be burned by the Yang Sword of Wallachia. And Subaru says that he's fine with burning to death if he thinks he will let Vincent leave without taking a beating. Subaru then proceeded to leap back up, and then he fell down because he was tired. It wasn't true that Subaru did not care for his life. Subaru just felt the need to prove Vincent wrong. Regardless, Subaru states that Vincent is right, and he doesn't know how to operate by their standards. Vincent notices that Subaru said their standards, meaning he was referring to multiple people. No matter how much Vincent would think about the other person Subaru's words were directed at, he would never be able to guess, considering one of them was the Emperor and the other was a no-named soldier. Todd said Subaru chooses who lives based on his likes and dislikes. Vincent said Subaru decides who lives or dies based on his recklessness. Both are right and wrong. Subaru then says, "What's wrong with that?" Subaru asks again, "Is it wrong to save a life in front of you without meaning?" Vincent then asks why. Subaru doesn't look at the bigger picture and use his power wisely. Subaru says that he is using it wisely. Subaru was angry and he was kicking Vincent in the shin, and Vincent then proceeded to grab Subaru and tries to end the conversation and move Subaru out of the way as Subaru was blocking the door. Subaru retaliates by biting Vincent's hand. Subaru uses this time to grab Vincent's legs, and using techniques he learned from Whites, he manages to tackle Vincent to the floor and straddle him. But Vincent picks him up and knocks him off, then attempts to leave. However, Subaru gets up and jumps onto Vincent's back, and they both land into the door of the room. Vincent hits the door face first, and then proceeds to grab Subaru, who is on his back, and then slams Subaru onto the door, and they both stare at each other. Vincent proceeds to ask Subaru what he wants, and Subaru says that he wants to hit Vincent. Then Subaru asks what Vincent wants. Subaru continues to lash out, trying to hit Vincent and bite his hand, but he cannot reach. So he just simply settles for spitting on Vincent's hand. Subaru then says that Vincent appeared because he obviously wanted something. Subaru says that the most passionate story he heard from Vincent was of course the story about Chisha, and Vincent asks Subaru why. Vincent continues, stating that Chisha essentially is like Vincent Wallachia, a suitable replacement. Whichever survived, Vincent Wallachia or Chisha Gold, whichever lived, could have fought against the great disaster. So why? The mask of the Emperor cracked again. The man named Abel looks at Subaru. He asks Subaru why did he save Vincent, someone who he hated, and let Chisha die. Subaru didn't know that Chisha and Vincent's life was on the balance, where only one could live and one could die. Preparing for a death which is coming is no different for Subaru, who has returned by death, which means Abel has been facing his whole death this whole time. Abel had been fighting with the same resolve as Subaru, who believed his death could not be changed. If Subaru lived, for example, then Rem, Beatrice and the rest would die, so Subaru has to die. Subaru reiterates that he is not a stargazer, and that's why he cannot help Chisha. However, Subaru continues, saying he can tell Vincent one thing, that if he did have some power, he would choose to help Vincent, not because he's forward thinking, but because that's just how he feels. Abel's grasp on Subaru loosens, and Subaru slides to the floor. Abel stumbles over his words, not knowing what to say, before stating that he prepared himself to die, and that he is not prepared to mourn. With that, Vincent asks why, as he falls to his knees. The Emperor, who did not close his eyes, proceeded to cover his face with his hands. He then asked, "Why did you leave me to die, Chisha?" Abel's voice trembled, and maybe even a tear may have been shed from his dark eyes. Subaru sees this and then says sorry. The scene changes. We see that some time has passed, and Subaru had the idea to punch Vincent, which he stole from Otto back in the sanctuary. Vincent had his back against the wall, and he was looking into the dimly lit room. Subaru sat next to Vincent. Subaru reiterates that they're not friends, and Vincent says that he doesn't want friends. Subaru then says it's not that, it's just that Vincent can't make friends. And Vincent calls Subaru disrespectful. Vincent again asks if Subaru is a stargazer, and Subaru says that he is not, and states that being a stargazer sounds like it has something to do with the Sin archbishops. With that, Subaru said he wouldn't forgive Abel if he did anything to Louis, and Vincent said that Subaru was the one person who hated her the most. And then Subaru said that was the past and this is the present. Subaru then says Abel has an attitude problem, and Vincent states that it's on purpose because he was under the assumption that Subaru was a stargazer, and therefore wanted to ensure that when Subaru was given the choice on who to save, he would not choose to save Vincent because he would hate Vincent. However, Vincent continued by stating that he didn't even need to act because he didn't like Subaru from the core of his body anyway. Subaru said he didn't know who Chisha was, but he kicked Vincent off the throne. The only time Subaru met Chisha was at Chaos Flame, and then Chisha died for Vincent's sake. He doesn't know who Chisha was, but he knows one thing: Chisha Gold was amazing. A man who outsmarted even the wisest emperor. Of course he was amazing. Subaru states that with a smile. Vincent once said that it didn't matter who survived, so Subaru asks, why did Chisha want to die instead of Vincent? Vincent asks Subaru for the conclusion he came up with, and Subaru says it's obvious. Chisha was obviously pissed off at Vincent, who gave up to fate. The enemy Abel had given up against was destiny, and Chisha, who defied destiny, was victorious by dying instead of Vincent Vlachia, which triggered the great disaster. With that, Subaru says that they can fight fate and not to give up. Subaru again reiterates he's not a Star Reader. However, he will do everything in his power to save as many people as possible, stating that Abel should give him power, and at the same time, he will give Abel power also. From here on out, Subaru declares he will help Abel, well, until he gets the permission from the Emilia camp. Subaru stood up and said he will help Abel eat the fruit that he cut. Subaru picked up one half and bit into it, whilst throwing the other half to Abel, who looked at it and then proceeded to bite into it. Vincent then states that he hates Subaru, but he needs Subaru's help. Vincent stands up and bows to Subaru and states that he's sorry for the many insults, Knight of the Kingdom. Subaru steps forward and states that he doesn't apologize for his many disrespectful statements, Emperor of the Empire. Subaru stepped in for correcting their relationship, which had been a mistake in the beginning. And with that, the chapter ends. That was such an enjoyable chapter. It's unreal, like, because there's so much stuff that I've sort of cut out for the summary, but it's such an amazing chapter. This sort of dialogue between Subaru and Vincent is pretty amazing, if I'm going to be honest. So look forward to the proper translations when they come out. But it looks like, yep, Subaru will be helping Abel. And it is obvious Abel knows that Subaru has a power, but doesn't know what it is. But until next time.